We acknowledge that we are recording this podcast from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their ongoing connection to land and waters throughout Australia.
Welcome to Super Simple Chats, Rest's very first podcast. I'm Ange.
And I'm Alex.
And we will be speaking to industry experts about all things super.
Wait, what the hell is contributions as well?
I didn't realise until recently that super is invested. I thought it was like a savings account.
I'm not sure it's helpful to talk about specific numbers, but it's a lot less than $1 million.
This is actually really important to talk about it because I don't want to miss out on those things.
Try to make it understandable and relatable for everyday Aussies.
After all, it's one of the biggest assets you'll ever have.
Now, this wouldn't be a financial podcast if we didn't start by mentioning that the information discussed is general only and doesn't take into account your own financial situation, needs, or objectives. This information and the relevant products are issued by retail employees Superannuation Pty Ltd. Before deciding to join or stay, consider the relevant product disclosure statement and target market determination at rest.com.au/PDS and whether it's appropriate for you. While we've endeavoured to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the information provided, there may be inadvertent errors or omissions. So before acting on any advice, we recommend you speak with a financial advisor. Most people associate the 5 love languages with their relationships. But who says that you can't actually give your super a little bit of love? So joining us today is Matt from Rest, and he's going to be talking to us about how you can give your super love and how that might help you grow your super for later. So thank you for joining us today, Matt.
Thanks for having me. I didn't realise I was a love expert. So
well, today it's love and super. And
they go hand in hand. Everyone knows this.
We are going to be throwing this at you.
Cool.
Firstly, do you know what the 5 love languages are? And if you don't, that's okay, because we're going to be rapid fire questioning you.
Semi-familiar, but if you want to fire them at me and I'll see how they relate to super, I'll give it a crack.
Amazing. Let's give it a crack, Alex.
Yeah.
Okay, so if your love language is quality time, how could you show that by loving your super?
Quality time, okay. I think for me, super's a long-term investment. It's something you're going to have for 30 to 40 years in some cases. So just get to know it a little bit more. So engage with your super as much as you can over that time, and it's probably going to make a big difference come retirement.
Okay, what about acts of service?
Yeah, I think simply just keeping on top of your super, maybe just checking that your employer's paying their contributions might be something that relates there. Amazing.
What about for those who it's physical touch?
Physical touch. Oh, this is probably one that's close to me and close to my heart, and I think it would be potentially downloading the app of your respective fund. Most super funds have an app. I'm a little biased working at Rest. We have a great app. On the whole, most funds do have an app, and it's the easiest way that you can stay on top of your super, check all your balances, contributions, everything. So that would be probably that physical touch. I know it's more the eye thing scanner these days, but some have still got the touch button to open up the phone.
Well,
so I think that works in their
fingertips, right?
Correct, that's it. That's what they say. So yeah, I think downloading the app of your respective fund, that would be the best thing there.
Amazing.
Okay, for my love language, words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Okay, geez, we're getting into detail now. I think what I would think of here is probably around opening any comms you get from your super fund. So I'm sure there's emails that people receive from their super fund, and they may go to spam, they may not get opened, but there's one really important comm that comes once a year, and that's your annual statement. So I think probably just opening that statement, having a look at it, seeing what's going on with your account and your respective fund, probably that would be the best thing to do there.
Amazing. And one of my favourites, don't tell my husband this, gifts.
Gifts,
gifts?
Yeah, geez, who doesn't love gifts? And I think for me, gifts probably just relates to probably the biggest thing to do with super, and that's contributions going into your account, whether that's your employer contributions or contributions that you're putting in yourself. So they're the greatest gift of all, going into your super. So certainly something I can relate there with the love languages is gifts and contributions for sure.
Who said you can't love your super? There are 5 ways you can love your super. I guess super is one of the biggest assets that most people have in their lifetime, and it's one that actually, to your point, for quality time grows over your working life.
Totally.
And I guess going back to the gifts, question. What are some ways that people could contribute to their superannuation?
Yeah, you're so right about being one of the biggest assets. I think most people, super will be their biggest asset outside of the family home when they come retirement. So, yeah, the contributions going in are very important. And there's probably two core ways. There's a few other ways, but there's two core ways that you can receive contributions. The first one being what's referred to as SG or super guaranteed. Now, these are the contributions that your employer pays into your account. So your employer is mandated to by law to pay these contributions, and at the moment it's a rate of 11.5%. Now, when I first started working in super, it was 9%, and before that it was even smaller, but it's come a long way. So much so it's actually going to 12% next financial year as well. So, all these additional amounts going into your super compounding over the lifetime of you working will make a big impact on your account. The other way would be, what's referred to as salary sacrifice. Now, these are additional contributions that you're basically asking your employer to redirect from your salary or your pay into your super. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. You can say to your employer, hey, instead of putting this extra $100 a fortnight into my bank account, can you redirect it into my super? Or you can say, hey, look, can you redirect 5% or 2% or 1% of my salary every week, fortnight, month into my super? And obviously for me, this is a great way to build your balance, but at the same time, I'm very mindful of salary sacrificing in the current climate that we're living in. I mean, I'm sure you guys would be fully across the cost of living crisis that we're in at the moment. I'm sure when you go shopping, you notice those shopping bags don't fill up as much as they used to as well.
That's the truth.
So yeah, look, I'm certainly mindful of encouraging, completely encouraging people to go ahead and put as much money as they can into super, because I know every cent counts at the moment. But at the same time, it is a great way, if you can afford it, to obviously build up that nest egg come retirement.
Now, Matt, can you myth bust a belief I know that a lot of people have, and I've heard this a few times, and that's the idea that if super comes out before you get paid, does that mean you're actually missing out on more pay?
Yeah, look, I understand why people would potentially think that, and I think it probably comes back to, if you start in a workplace and you saw a job ad on like Seek, and that job ad said a $100,000 package. For me, I would probably assume that meant package inclusive of super, not $100,000 plus super. But some people may think, well, it's $100,000 plus my super, which is 11.5% at the moment. So I think that's where people potentially think, oh, my employer's taking money.
Yeah, they trip over the term of package.
People are thinking, oh, geez, my employer's, they've said this and they're only paying this, and then, this super's just been taken out of my, my bank account, and it's certainly not the case. So I think for me, it's, obviously it's easier said than done, but when you do start with an employer, or even ideally before you start with an employer, is just clarify your salary package and just understand what it means to be inclusive of super or not inclusive of super. They do have to pay you super, but it's just whether the package specifies it. So certainly something to be mindful of. And then obviously when you do start, have a quick read through that contract, which I'm sure you will do. But at the end of the day,
we all read it very much.
But at the end of the day, it's 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 your money. The money that's going in your bank account is your money, obviously, and the money going into your super account is your money as well. It may not seem real now, but it certainly is real, and you'll be able to access it later down the line.
We've actually gone out and spoken to everyday Aussies about this exact topic.
Have you ever thought about whether making any additional contributions is the right fit for you?
No, not really.
I have. At the moment, making additional contributions isn't feasible for me.
I was thinking, but I haven't done anything about it.
I did do a little calculator thing once, and I was like, oh, I probably need to start adding.
I did make extra contributions when I was younger. I don't feel I need to do that now.
Back to you, Ange.
So I'm a comms person, so math is not my strong suit, and I don't like numbers as much as I like words. But for those of us who really want to understand how much super they should be getting paid, how do you figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, there's some old school ways. You can just add 11.5% on top of how much you're earning. But if you want to do it the easy way, there's so many calculators online. So if you have a look on the ATO has an estimate my super tool that you can access. I'm sure if you just jump into Google and type in super calculators, they'll pop up quite a few as well. So you don't have to do it the old school way. You don't have to get out a pen and paper or even your phone and put in the calculations.
Well, that's music to my ears.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd use, the technology these days, within super financial services is amazing, so much better than when I first started working in super. And use it as your friend. It's your helper, and I'm sure there's some sort of AI out there as well these days that could help you.
Let's test it right after this episode.
Let's invent it
Yeah,
and live off the money. Okay, that's enough talk about calculators and maths for this podcast. You mentioned there were other ways to contribute to your super besides the super guarantee contributions. What are they?
Yeah, so there's the traditional employer contributions that they have to pay into your account. The other two main ones would be salary sacrificing and first one being salary sacrificing, and that one is just basically an arrangement with your employer. You'd ask them to put in an additional amount into your super every pay run. And you can nominate the amount that is, whether it's $5 or $10 a week, which over the long, over 30, 40 years will hopefully compound into something nice and juicy. Or you can ask them to put a percentage of your salary into your super as well. So that's salary sacrifice as an arrangement with your employer. The other thing you can do as well is just add additional contributions, post-tax contributions, that is. I will just clarify with the salary sacrifice contribution. There are tax advantages to that in the sense that it's only taxed at 15% as opposed to your marginal tax rate. So your marginal,
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, so your marginal tax rate, obviously it depends on how much you're earning. 15% tax compared to a lot of marginal tax rates is a lot less. So it can be tax advantageous, trying to get that word out. Certainly something to consider. The other one is member contributions or voluntary contributions. Now, these are post-tax contributions. This is money that's already in your bank account.
Okay.
And if you wanted to start making contributions to your super directly, there's a whole range of ways you can do this. Once again, I talked about the apps before. Generally within apps, there's BPay account details or various payment methods you can pay directly into your super fund. Please note there are caps on how much you can put into your super as part of voluntary and self-sack contributions. Those are available online as well. But as much as I'd like to say put in as much as you want, there are limits to how much you can put in.
Okay.
But those are the two. There's some various other ones, but I think probably for the purpose of today, just probably touch on those two, just to give you a bit of an intro into super there.
What I'm getting from this is there's a before tax way of doing it.
Correct.
And an after tax way of doing it. So before tax was salary sacrifice.
Yeah.
After tax was
voluntary contributions.
So if we were to weigh the two up, what are, I guess, the pros and cons for each one of those?
Yeah, look, there are pros and cons. And I think, once again, it does come down to the individual, how much you're earning, how much is going into your super at the moment as well. So I think if you are going to start to look to make additional contributions to your super, I would certainly take advantage of any financial advice services your fund offers, because they can run through these sort of contribution calculators with you and talk to you about the pros and cons on each. I think I'm sort of mindful of sort of giving broader pros and cons because it will affect people in different ways.
Okay.
But there are some really great upsides, but obviously there's a few risks involved as well. And I think as well, you need to be mindful that super, once you put money in super, you can't take it out until you retire. I mean, there's obviously ways that you have been able to, access super early. We saw that during COVID. But they're very special circumstances. So you do need to be mindful that once you put it in there, it's tucked away for your retirement.
And just one thing. So you mentioned earlier that there are tax benefits to the before tax or the salary sacrifice because it's 15%. If you were to put money in afterwards, what's the tax situation, because you've already kind of paid tax on that money, right?
I mean,
it's after tax.
in theory, if you've got money in your bank account, you've probably paid tax on it at some point. So the beauty about voluntary contributions is there is no tax on them. So when it goes into your account, zero tax. So which is fantastic, and obviously another incentive to put it in there. And look, if you're putting money into your super, look, as I mentioned, it's a really good way to save because you won't be able to take it out for some time as well, as opposed to putting it in a savings account and potentially dipping into it when you want to.
So I've heard through the grapevine that there are a few ways that the government tries to encourage us to engage with our super. Could you tell us a little bit about these?
Yeah, there's something, a great initiative called the Government Co-Contribution Scheme, and it's aimed to help load a middle income earners. And basically the way it works is if you contribute a certain amount of money, of your post-tax money into your super, the government will actually add a certain amount as well, depending on how much money you earn as well. So
Is this free money?
Well, look, I wouldn't say free money. You have to contribute. You have to contribute some of your own money first, but the government will match it by up to half in some instances. So I think for me, the numbers can get a little bit complicated in terms of how much you need to put in, how much you can get back. But there certainly is an opportunity to get some money from the ATO. So what I would highly suggest is that if you're listening to this, go check it out online. It's called the Government Co-Contribution Scheme. And you can have a look at your eligibility depending on your salary bracket and how much you could potentially get back from the ATO into your super. The best thing about this as well is you don't actually have to apply for it. When you lodge your tax at the end of the financial year, the government will match up any additional contributions you put in yourself and then your salary. And if you're eligible, they'll just make that additional contribution into your account, assuming we have your tax file number or your tax file number is on file at your respective super fund.
So you don't have to do anything. It just
Easy
magically
peasy.
appears.
It just
into your super fund.
magically appears.
So it's magic money.
Magic money, yeah. Magic money, exactly.
Maybe
right.
not, guys. Maybe not magic money, but that's really great.
I think for me, it's a really good way. If you're not earning a significant amount of money, then obviously there's not a huge amount of super going in every year. So I think it's a really good way to encourage people to make additional contributions if you can afford it, and then getting a little something back from the ATO is always a big win, right? So I'll
You know
take
what
that.
it reminds me of when I was a kid, and like my mum would say, if you put $1 in the savings jar, I'll match the $1 in the savings jar.
What a nice mother.
Yeah, it reminds me of that a little bit, but obviously not the same.
And look, there was a time actually where the government would match it 1 for 1 as well. So you put in the 1,000, you potentially get
Bring it
1,000.
back.
But now the most you can get from them is $500.
Okay.
But
That's still pretty
That's
good.
still
Look,
something.
it's $500, right? That's great. And look, if you start doing this early, we talk about it a lot in these super podcasts, the power of compound interest. Start doing this year on year, it's going to compound into hopefully a nice juicy balance come retirement.
Okay, Matt, well, that sounds pretty good, but are there any other ways the government might try and get us to love our super?
Totally. There's another way that can assist low income to middle income earners as well. It's something called the LISTO, which is the low income super tax offset. And basically what this initiative does, it allows you, depending on how much you earn, to potentially get a refund of some of the tax that you've paid on your super up to $500. But it'd be worthwhile once again jumping online to see if you're eligible for this. And, there's plenty of details available on, via the ATO or your super fund as well. Just search LISTO. And you should be able to pull up some details on that as well.
And do you have to apply for this?
No.
Or is it like the other government contribution?
Once again,
it just appears?
Yeah, once again, similar to the government co-contribution scheme. As long as you've got your tax file number on file with your super fund, when it comes to tax time lodging your tax return, the government will match up your salary, and then if you're eligible for that offset at the end of the financial year, automatically, like magic, in your super fund again.
So we've spoken a lot today about making contributions, but not everyone at the moment is in a position to make contributions to the super, as we kind of spoke about at the beginning with the cost of living crisis and stuff like that. So if you can't make contributions, what are some of the ways you can show your super some love?
There's a really easy way you can show your super a lot of love, and that would be potentially downloading the app of your respective super fund. I think for me, I'm obviously slightly biased working at Rest, but we have a great app, and I know a lot of other super funds have great apps too. Within an app, you can check your balance, your contributions from your employer, any additional contributions that you've been putting in as well, insurances, and your investments too. So it's the easiest way to be engaged with your super. You don't need to call a call center or wait for that annual statement. It's at your fingertips. So the easiest way you can show your super a bit of love is downloading the app of your respective fund and having a look at it every once in a while.
And just engaging with it?
Engage with it. That's it. And look, if you can afford to make a few changes, look, I would highly suggest speaking with an advisor before making any changes. But, super now is very much at your fingertips. And I know, working in the industry for some time, I'd love more and more Australians to be engaged with their super. It will make such a big impact come retirement.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt. I thought that was a really great episode.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You'll be thinking about love languages all the way home now.
Of course I will. Of course I will.
So please make sure to like, follow and subscribe.
For any more information on the things we spoke about today, there'll be some links in the description below.
And that is
Super simple.
Keep in mind that tax rules can be tricky and are always changing. The information provided here is for general informational purposes and should not be considered as tax advice. For advice that fits your own situation, it's best to chat with a licensed tax professional.